I had a reasonable wish list last year, and you know something? A lot of them came true. My request for a new F4U Corsair was met by Magic Factory. I wished for Japanese twins, and ICM delivered. I also asked for a late variant U2, which Hobby Boss has assured everyone is on the way soon. And 3 out of 5 ain't bad. Not bad at all. But this would be an awfully boring video if I said, good enough, and we can't have that. Besides, considering how many wins I've had since starting these lists in 2019, it would be a disservice to the hobby for me to stop now. So, here are my 5 most wanted kits in no particular order. A great F86 Saber in 1/48 scale. I made an impassioned pitch for the Saber last year, despite the fact I really shouldn't have to. The Saber has a rabid international fan base. Why? Well, the Saber served in dozens of air forces across the globe. It's been to war. It served for decades. It was upgraded in several ways by several manufacturers. The painting and marking options are beyond plentiful. Besides, just look at it. It looks great. At this moment, the best models we have in 48 scale are the Hasegawa and Academy kits. And I really can't give the nod to one over the other, as both have their advantages and quirks. But they are long in the tooth, and we could use some modern tooling. What's more is that neither of these 30-year-old kits were dislodged by the very recent F86 from Airfix. Having seen some side-by-side comparisons, the Airfix kit actually looked to be the older one with the softer detail. I have hope that Kinetic someday blows us away with a new series of F86 models. If their CF104 is any indication, we'd be in for quite a treat. A Banshee Dash 3 in 1/48 scale. The Banshee was a transition airplane if there ever was one. It was only around for some 10 years. It only had 3 operators. But it did see limited combat in Korea, and you can't say that about many early jets. For some reason, the Royal Canadian Navy was interested and bought a handful of Sunday-driven, low-mileage, pre-enjoyed Dash 3 Banshees from the US Navy. These Banshees were given Sidewinder missiles and flew off a green-decked aircraft carrier. However, it soon became obvious there were very few things for these handsome Banshees to intercept over the North Atlantic. And, economics being as they were, less than 7 years after they arrived, the Canadian Banshees were retired. Now, it would seem like I'm arguing against myself, but just look at it. It's a classy airplane with that pretty RCN scheme. It sure made up for having to operate off an ugly green deck. It might not have done a lot of flying for Canada, but when it flew with panache. Now, when it comes to kits of the Banshee, we have few options for the early variants in both major scales. However, there's definitely a gap in the later variants. A quick scan over at ScaleMate shows there's only one short-run resin kit of the Dash 3 variant, so good luck finding it and paying a reasonable price for it and building a nice model from the 2 pounds of warpy pitted resin. A few years ago, there was an announcement that Kitty Hawk, of all things, was going to be making a Dash 3 and a Dash 4 Banshee. Well, that never happened, and maybe that was for the best. Still, here is an obvious gap that needs attention. An F111A in 72nd scale. What I don't know about the air war over Vietnam could fill a library. I came to that conclusion while walking through one of the 5 cavernous hangars at the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. There were all sorts of Vietnam airplanes in there, including this all-weather bad boy F111A. The U.S. Air Force used the 111 in Vietnam to test the concept of a single airplane low-level penetration in all-weather conditions. Most of those missions were flown at night and in bad weather, and as it turns out, the bombing accuracy was just as good as daylight accuracy for other fighter bombers. But the point was to strike with complete surprise so as to minimize the number of shoot downs. The F-111 didn't need multiple ships to hit a target, nor did it need all the tanker support and jamming aircraft that the regular bombers did. It could navigate itself at night in bad weather, flying just over the trees. In a way, this was the first stealth bomber. Pretty cool if you ask me. When it comes to nice kits of the 111 in 72nd scale, there are some options, but none of them are great. And perhaps the best of the bunch is the venerable Hasegawa kit from the Reagan administration. I'm told the fit is okay. It has recessed panel lines at least, but it is very much on the simplified details end of the kit spectrum. I'm thinking about some of the recent 72nd scale releases by Great Wall Hobby and Fine Molds. There are now some very nice F-15s and F-14s in the gentleman's scale, so maybe we can also get a fine 111 to round out those Cold Warriors. An accurate space shuttle in 144th scale. Is this an airplane? Well, it's got wings and engine and it flies. Okay, it glides, but close enough. It was also an incredibly complex and impressive machine. Now, we consider this as insanity today, but this thing was sold to the public in the 70s as an everyday, regular method to bring space transportation to the masses. Kind of like a four-door family sedan to the stars. Shoot it up on a rocket, glide it down to an airport, rinse, repeat. Problems? Oh, there were a couple. But before the final accident, there were many successful flights. And because of that, the space shuttle, despite being anything but simple, was almost thought of as routine as an airliner. Nothing could be further from the truth. A long, long time ago, my sister bought me the 72nd scale Revell space shuttle. That was a big kit. And I mean, it was big. I immediately tore into that box and I started building it, but back then my skills really weren't up to the task. It ended up being a hot mess of a putty monster, and I remember endlessly sanding those horrific joints. Ultimately, I gave up on the model and it didn't survive one of my parents' many basement purges, so that was probably for the best. There has never been an accurate model of the space shuttle in any scale. What we have are approximations at best. I think it's time for us to see an accurate shuttle in any scale, but I'd like to see something smaller than 72nd. There are several old school models of the space shuttle in 144 scale, so it's not like this is a new idea. I think there'd be a lot of interest in a space shuttle of this size. A Dash4 Corsair in 48 scale. I know we just got a new tool Corsair. Am I being greedy? No, not exactly. It seems to me that we are absolutely showered with these early variants of the Corsair, and I'm not complaining. And for the late ones, the Hasegawa kits are decent and build well despite being a bit old. But what about that sweet, gushy center? The F4U4 was the last of the thoroughbreds, designed to be a fighter. The best fighter of the bunch, and for all intents and purposes, it was. Hell, it flew in 2 wars. It even shot down a MiG-15. The later Corsairs were bomb trucks, and yeah, they could hold their own in a fight. Those Corsairs were designed to fly low, hit ground targets, and fight their way home. But the Dash4 was the last true fighter Corsair. So, given this background and impressive war record, surely we must have an excellent model of the best Corsair to build. Right? Nope. We have the decades-old monogram kit with all of its working features. We have a slightly fewer decades-old Hasegawa kit with its raised panel lines and simplified detail. There is also a late 80s Academy Minicraft kit, which is best described as an approximation of the Dash4. Most recently, Hobby Boss threw their hat in the ring and gave us a Dash4 with some nice features, including a cockpit and gun bays and a nice engine. However, I found that kit to be a mixed bag with a number of glaring shape and detail issues. Right now, the best way to get yourself an accurate Dash4 is to find the years-old CMK conversion kit and graft all that slightly shrunken resin onto a Tamiya Corsair. But be warned, that is not going to be a lot of fun. So yes, greedy or no, we need a proper Dash4 Corsair. No matter what, I'm wishing everyone a happy, healthy, and fun 2024. I'm looking forward to so many things this year, both inside and outside the hobby, and I hope the model gods smile upon me and answer a few or all of these requests. I'd like to know what you think of my top 5 this year. Do you agree with my picks? Did I make any glaring omissions? What are your top 5 model wishes? I'd really like to know in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time.